What is up, guys? It's your boy Mangazi here, back at you with another video. Coming at you today from the lovely Garden Park Village, like a fucking pedophile. But here today to talk to you about why your mix sounds like trash. You've put in so much effort in your production, and you're ready to share it with people, but you're not feeling 100% confident because your mix does not compete with other tracks in the same genre. And I'm here to talk to you about the reasons why that's happening. Because trust me, if you were to pay attention to these things and rectify them in your mixing, I promise you your music will sound as good as it can possibly sound. So let's break it down. The number one reason why your mixes sound like trash is because you don't have proper equipment. If you don't have proper equipment, there's absolutely no way you can accurately listen to what is going on in your track. Trying to mix a track without proper equipment is like coloring a painting without looking at it. The reason why it's so important to have proper equipment is because most of the commercially available listening equipment will not give you a flat signal. So most headphones, most speakers are EQ'd to give you some sort of feel. Some of them are EQ'd to give you more bass, more mids, or more highs, and will not give you the flat signal necessary for you to accurately listen to what's going on in your music. The number two reason why your mix sound like trash is because you lack judgment. What I mean by you lack judgment is, let's say your track sounds muddy. Now, let's go over the reasons why it sounds muddy. Does it sound muddy because the bass volume is too loud in your mix? Does it sound muddy because the transient frequency of your bass is clashing with the kick? Does it sound muddy because you don't have enough high end in the rest of your instruments in the track? These are the sort of judgments that you need some sort of experience in mixing to be able to accurately make. If you don't have good judgment quite yet, it just means you need a lot more time and experience mixing records to be able to make the right decisions for your song. The number three reason why your mix sound like trash is because you're overworking your ears. If you're one of those people who spends over an hour trying to mix your track, you are shooting yourself in the foot. That's because after a while, your ears become too overworked to accurately identify what is wrong with your mix. The law of diminishing returns works during your mix down. The more time you spend listening to your mix, the less your ears are able to accurately judge what is going on. One good technique that Mike Sr. gives on his book, Mixing Secrets for the Small Studio, is if you're mixing your track, ideally you want to be taking the first half an hour mixing, followed by 20 minutes of resting your ears. So ideally, you should spend these 20 minutes, go and play your video games, go out for a walk, watch a TV show, do whatever it is that you do in your free time to sort of recover your hearing so that you can come back to the mix with a fresh perspective. The number four reason why your mixes sound like trash is because you're not using reference tracks. And what I mean by reference tracks is other songs that you want to compare your mix. This can go either of two ways. You take a song that's relatively similar to your song and you use it as reference to say, okay, I want my bass to sound like this. I want my mids to sound like this. You make your mixing decisions on your track based on how this similar track stands up against your own. Another way you can do this is taking a track that doesn't represent how you want your track to sound. So let's say you take a track that has a little too much low end. You use that as reference. You're working on the low end on your track. You come to a point where, okay, this is getting too similar to this track that has way too much low end. And that is the thing that informs you to stop. It's a good technique to have because it lets you know where you're going with your mix and it helps you keep track of your own progress. The number five reason why your mix sounds like trash is your song is trash. One of the hardest things to get over as a producer, especially if you're starting out as a producer, is mixing will not make your production better. Mixing will not improve your composition, your rhythm, your melody, your samples, your presets, your chords, your patterns, your structure, your singing, your rapping, and your sound design. So if you come to the end of your mix down process and you've taken care of all the points that I mentioned previously, then maybe it is that your song is just not that good enough. Whether you're mixing for yourself or you're mixing for a client, you need to come to that point of honesty of saying, okay, I'm done with the mix, but this doesn't sound as good. Maybe it's because the production wasn't that good to begin with. Okay, to finish off, the last reason why your mix sounds like trash is probably because you're not finished producing. And I get this a lot, especially when people are mixing their tracks in the DAW that they're working on. When they start mixing the track, they haven't taken off their creative hat. They don't separate the production process from the mixing process. So they'll be in the middle of their production and they'll start to mix certain instruments together. And the reason this doesn't work is because you don't have the full picture of your song to be able to mix the instruments together. You lose your sense of perspective and you lose your sense of direction. Because you don't know where the mix is going, you haven't been able to decide what's important in your song to be able to mix all the instruments well enough. If this is you, I highly recommend finish your production, export all the stems, and start your mixing process in a completely fresh project within your DAW, because this will force you to not make last minute decisions about your production, and it'll force you to commit to your song before you start mixing it. These are some of the reasons why your mix is sounding like trash. I promise you, if you take the time to improve on all of these things that I mentioned before, and you take the time to train your ears and experiment with multiple mixes, you will have the equipment, the judgment, and the experience necessary to be able to make commercially competitive mixes that are going to stand out with other tracks within your genre. As always, thank you very much for watching, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I love you. We'll be posting videos very soon, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.